Welcome to News Analysis. This video forms third part of the series on comparisons of National Education Policy 2020 with that of 1986 and 1968. The theme of this video is three language formula. Starting with the 1968 one, which was based on 1966 Kothari Commission report. Kothari Commission looked into 36 different countries, their experiences with the language and as subject in school and higher education system. In 1956, a meeting of Central Advisory Board of Education was held regarding how the languages should be introduced and which combination of the language would be there. In 1961, with this backing, chief ministers of all the states held a meeting. Three language formula was devised, in which one a regional language, one modern Indian language, and a third language as maybe Indian language or a foreign language was to be introduced. Backed with constitutional provisions and schedules, Hindi was one language, second was a regional language, and third was a English language, which should be introduced at various levels of education. Committee was of the recommendation that they should not be introduced at once. Instead, they should be introduced in phases. The beginning one should be there in the mother language or the regional language, and then after that, second language should be introduced at class 5, and then third at class 8. In Hindi speaking zone, one South Indian language was to be introduced, and in non Hindi speaking belt, Hindi was to be introduced, so as of more national integration. However, for second and third language, there was option of interchange that English between English and a regional language or Hindi for that matter. In no cases fourth languages was going to be introduced, and in no case three language formula was going to be adopted at university level. Committee was of the view that English, as it forms the library language, should be the medium of instruction in universities. Then it also did not give much importance to classical language. It recognized its importance, but preference was given to modern Indian languages. However, if classical languages were to be introduced, it recommended that it should be introduced as optional at class 8 level. So in that case, English should be introduced at class 5. Common script was to be developed as per their recommendation, maybe in Roman or Devanagari speed, Devanagari script, so as the students could learn at a fast pace. Then they also gave recommendation about adopting international numerical system 0, 1, 2, 3, which were basically Indian in nature. And then it also recommended that there should not be a separate university set up for Sanskrit or any classical languages. Instead, advanced centers in this university could be set up, and further research processes or research work could be carried out. Then in 1986, some of the differences and some of the loopholes were found in terms of the implementation part. It first of all, it recommended that universities should be at university level, three language formula should be adopted. So it marks a departure from the 1966 recommendation. However, there were some problems with this. First was that the production of books, whatever the books were to be taught in the regional languages, were not synchronized with the university decision to teach in those languages. Teachers were not trained in any kind of Indian language. They were taught at in English medium, so they felt it hard to impart their instruction in through the regional language. Control over textbook was not as much tight as those in schools. Then lack of professional compatibility and poor employment potential for the regional language was again seen as one of the obstacles. Suggestions were given that translation works to should be done at a much fast and much greater level, and then dictionaries multilingual and bilingual should be introduced so that it would help in university level and other things. At school level, regarding the implementation part of 1968, uh, there were some of the loopholes or some of the negativity. So one negative thing was that instead of modern language, classical language had substituted it. Then in the Hindi speaking zone, southern languages were not introduced. Instead, Sanskrit was introduced. Duration was not fixed, how much long it would be taught, and competency level of students were also varying. So they spoke about the competency of the students and problem solving that. They said that textual material should be is one of the problem, it's lacking. So it should be adequate, and for that again translation works needed to be done. Then training of teachers and research methodology in teaching the languages were to be taken up. Infrastructure facilities has to be increased for any kind of language, including the foreign language. At school or university level, specialized or bridged or remedial classes for different languages could be set up. Further, regarding the importance giving to classical language, they said that international recommended that International Institute for the Promotion of Indology and Classical Languages should be set up, which should be autonomous in nature and uh, should be done by the ministry itself. Furthermore, it also had pulled in different other institutions together at that point of time, which were related mainly to the languages, so as they could come up, do their coursework, prepare the curriculum, and moreover produce textbooks, textual materials, and dictionaries. In fact, for a larger implementation part, they said that suggested a standing committee, setting up of a standing committee of the Central Advisory Board of Education, and Bureau of Languages of the ministry would function as its secretariat. So these were the things. So in two terms, we have seen the departure. First, in terms of introduction to introduction at university level of three language formula, and then after some importance given to the classical language. Again, in 2020, if we look at the language, they have clearly said that it is better that mother language should be introduced as a medium of instruction till class 5, preferably till class 8 and beyond. So, but this is not the case that languages would be there, only medium would be the medium mother language, but they have clearly outlined that teachers teachers will there be using bilingual approach, and moreover three language formula would be adopted at the early level from age 2 to 8. So it may be at the pre-primary stage, at the foundational stage onwards they have recommended. It again marks a departure from the 1968 and 1968 recommendations, where it was said that the languages should be introduced at different levels. Here it is said that it should be introduced at the basic level, foundational level, because children pick up languages extremely quickly between the age of 2 and 8, and multilingualism has a great cognitive benefit. So there is a dualism. One is teaching instruction in mother language, and introduction of other languages at the foundational level. But they have given an option, one should not confuse it, that given an option that it's not only restricted to three language formula. It has suggested that it could be extended to more than three languages, four languages, five languages, or maybe six languages, for which they have provided an option of changing of language between class 6 to 8, which would be flexible in nature with optional. Then experiential learning would be encouraged, drama, play, songs, movies, games, apps, or other things. Meanwhile, they have also emphasized that textual and translation works are to be done, dictionaries are to be developed. So, the method of how it should be used is in line with those of 66 and 86, but how much languages, how many languages should be introduced is again a contradiction with that of 1968 and 86. Phonetics and origin of languages are to be done so as to understand how the family of Indian languages over a period of time has developed. It would be done at class 6 to 8 level. It would be optional in nature. Sanskrit again would be introduced, and it would serve as importance has been given to it. Sanskrit knowledge system as it is known. It would be taught in simple standard Sanskrit material should be developed, and emphasis should be given that Sanskrit will be taught in Sanskrit medium, not in any other medium. It's again optional, it would be optional in nature. Other classical languages are also given importance, and option of learning two classical languages in class 8 to 10 and maybe beyond if possible has been given. So it's not limited to three language formula. Now it's almost not done. It has been introduced at as multilingualism. Foreign language can also be offered at class 6 to 8. Indian Sign Language are to be standardized. So overall we have seen how the things have developed over a period of time, starting from three language formula to multilingualism, which may be 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 languages. That's all.